Fingers crossed it works.
Fantastic. Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. I'm Hayley Johnson. I'm a careers advisor here at the university and I support the humanities team. I've worked in a few departments in the university and I was a graduate from here as well. So I've got a few different perspectives on careers and different sectors to get into. And now Ushma will introduce herself.
So I'm Ushma, as Hayley has said. I'm one of the careers consultants here. Prior to that, I worked in a different team, which was called the information team in careers. I have worked at a different university doing careers, and I've also had a different career for 18 years, which will be covered in the session today, not by me. Take it away, Hayley.
Thank you, Ushma. So thank you again so much for coming. We've got 5 sectors we're going to be covering on the screen. So I'm going to start with, that's fine. I'm going to start with creative and cultural and education, and then Ushma will take charities, government and healthcare. And we've got a top tip on the screen just to let you all know straight away that not all sectors advertise every opportunity. So it is really important to be quite creative and consider a speculative approach when it comes to your job search. We do have lots of advice on that online, and you can always come to us at the atrium to have a chat if you are worried about how to do that. There we go. So the aim of today's session, as we do our overview of the 5 sectors, want to increase your awareness of these sectors that are very popular with humanities graduates, so you can know how and where to further research any areas you are interested in. We really want to help you make sense of your options and career choices after you finish, and just so that you can understand more about how graduate employers recruit and where to find these opportunities, and to get you prepared for the fair next week as well. So I'm going to begin with creative and cultural, which is a very varied sector for sure. So working in creative and cultural sector, so as I said, it can be a massive range of jobs, some of them that won't even exist right now, but they will when you graduate. It can be things from performance, publishing, music, games, film, working in a cultural and heritage organisation. So many different companies and employers, which include so many different roles as well. So just some facts for you. So the UK's creative industries contributed 115.9 billion to the economy in 2019, which was a 43.6% increase since 2010, which are big numbers, but it just means that there is a demand in that sector. It's definitely very much valid and worthwhile. I think sometimes students worry that there's not as many opportunities, but there really is. It is just remembering that they're not always advertised openly, but they are still very much there and you can find them. We really want to remind you how important it is to develop your skills and experience, a lot of which you'll have gained throughout your degree, but there is a lot of opportunities at the university to enhance that for your applications to stand out, whether it's through volunteering, internships, anything else at all. I'll just move on to the next slide. Thank you. So here's some examples of some of the big graduate employers. This is not exclusive, there are many more, whether it's startups or smaller companies, but here's some of the big ones. Things like Rockstar, BBC, ITV, the Manchester International Festival, things like that. And of course, on our doorstep, we have Media City. So if you do want to stay in Manchester after you graduate, or now before you do, check out Media City, get to know the employers and start networking. That's so important in every sector, but particularly creative and cultural. There's some fantastic organisations there, so please do get involved and come to some of our industry insight events and meet the alumni, hear from people that are in that sector and how they went about it. So what is it like working in the creative and cultural sector? So again, it can vary massively. You will need to demonstrate a practical creative talent or show passion for art, design, music or other creative pursuits. Because there is a higher than average likelihood of being self-employed or freelance or working for quite short-term contracts, it's really important that you're very proactive and resilient and that you can work with independence, because there's not always a straight line with your career when it's in creative and cultural. So from that, salaries can be quite low and your income can be unsteady as you start out. But there definitely are opportunities and a massive potential for growth. So resilience is so important to just keep with it. And if you have a genuine passion in this sector, then that will carry you through. You just have to be very aware of that and seek out those opportunities, which is why we talk about networking so much. Working hours and location can vary as well massively, so maybe consider what kind of work-life balance you might want or where you want to be based and if that's possible. And of course, you'll need to keep up to date with industry developments and again, develop those strong networks. We will keep saying networking throughout this session, but it is so crucial for all sectors. So things that you do need to know, work experience is definitely expected as a candidate in this area. And when you're applying for different opportunities, it can be an advantage if you have a relevant postgraduate qualification, but it's not always essential. Any job advertisement will say if that's critical for them when you apply. So opportunities you can get involved in. If you haven't so far been able to do that throughout your degree, that's absolutely fine. You still have time. We have our volunteering hub, which advertises hundreds of different opportunities, or you might want to look for summer placements, part-time jobs, and again, adopt that speculative approach, maybe get in touch with different employers and see if they have work shadowing opportunities, whatever it might be, and it'll really help you stand out on your applications. What I will say about volunteering is, if you don't have as much time, or of course you're trying to finish your degree and have a social life as well, there can be lots of ad hoc opportunities. So whether it's once a week, just volunteering at one big event, things like that. So there are always something for every student. So please don't feel like you need lots of free time to be able to commit to things to enhance your CV. There's definitely different opportunities. And of course, we've got extracurricular activities, societies, there's leadership roles at the universities, like being a student rep or an ambassador. And of course, we have so many things on Career Connect. There's the relevant industry insight events. We have our fantastic media club. So I don't know if you know much about that, but it is exclusive to University of Manchester students. And every month we invite leading practitioners to the university or online to speak to you about their industry, how they got there, what the application's like, and to just give advice. And again, it's a fantastic place to network with people that are alumni of your university, find out how they got there. I think it's very useful if they're doing a job that is your dream job, you can find out what those middle steps were. There's not always a straight line to your dream job. There might be other things you have to do around it first. So it's a fantastic opportunity to speak to people that have done that. And of course, be active online, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, collaborate and meet other creatives as well. We do have our alumni LinkedIn page as well. That's fantastic as well to meet graduates and just share employability tips, get application advice, things like that. And joining professional bodies can be really helpful that are relevant to your field. So you can keep up to date with things that are happening as well and get involved where you can.
Before you go on, Hayley, I think it might be important for the students to note that sometimes there might be a job advertised at one of the media organisations or an organisation who you want to work for, but the role might be different to what it is that you want to do with your future career. Lots of people actually get into the sector by doing a different role to start off with. So you start off as an admin assistant or a finance assistant, and then the people within the organisation will talk about how brilliant your work is and then recommend you, allow you to go on and meet people from different departments, and that can also help you access opportunities and is referred to as the hidden jobs market.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ushma. That's incredibly helpful to bear that in mind, especially with a lot of the roles in that sector being quite short term. It just gives you more opportunities to jump around and to experience different ones. And you could end up finding one that you actually love that you wouldn't have considered originally. So it really is great to look for those hidden jobs. So do make the most of the fair next week. These are the exhibitors we have from Creative and Cultural, so RWS, Media Club and Prime. We have 3. It may not seem like a lot, but again, there are those hidden job opportunities, the speculative approaches, but they're still very much worthwhile speaking to them. I always advise, go on LinkedIn, do a little bit of research, have some questions prepared maybe, just to speak to them and figure out different tips and advice for getting into that sector.
And also you might want to talk to other organisations about the different types of work that they're doing, because often organisations will have quite creative roles that you might be interested in, but you might not have thought that they would have those sorts of roles because you might be only looking for like an ITV or a BBC.
100%, definitely. It's important not to limit yourself and to have those conversations with different people. Definitely. Thank you, Ushma.
So Hayley, I'm going to skip through. There's a video that the students can access when we send them the presentation. And I think you're going to move on to education now, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. So switching it up now onto education. So if you're interested in that sector, we've got going to go through lots of different things, whether it's the sort of responsibilities in that, different routes into education. We are going to focus on primary and secondary education, but we've got links to alternative careers as well if you're interested in something a bit different.
Sorry.
All right. So the education sector in the UK. So generally, when graduates are interested in education, they do have a genuine passion for making a difference to people's lives. So normally the ideal candidates, you know, are knowledgeable, hardworking, motivated, and you really are dedicated to delivering that high quality educational standards. And there's quite a few buzzwords there, you know, hardworking, motivated. These are definitely things you can express on an application. So don't feel put off if they come across a bit cliche or anything like that. There are definitely things you can express and that you can gain through work experience as well. So right now, there are currently 32,770 schools in the UK. And of those, there are 506,400 full-time teachers in the UK, 42% in primary school, 41% in secondary school. So a lot of schools, which hopefully means a lot of opportunities for work experience and jobs as well. Just move to the next slide, thank you. So again, we are going to focus on primary and secondary, but there's a link there that you will be sent. So if you do sign up on the bit.ly link in the chat that I posted again a moment ago, you'll get these so you can have an explore of the alternative careers. The education sector does cover a wide spectrum of jobs, so it's not just teaching in a primary or secondary school. As you can see on that list, you can work in careers, training and development, alternative provisions, family support and advocacy. You can actually work in the government, but in the education department, so designing policy, things like that. So there might be some roles that you don't know exist, but you think actually that would be perfect. I don't want to be in the classroom, but I want to be more behind the stage type thing. So there's lots of opportunities. So please do check those out and explore if you are interested in the education sector. So routes for getting into teaching, there's lots of different ones. So I will say it's really important to do your research and to find the right one for you if it is something you want to pursue. So these are just some of the ones that we've popped on the slide. So of course, there's a PGCE, so that's a postgraduate certificate in education. They're 1 year. Many do lead to QTS, which is qualified teaching status, but they don't all. So again, please do your research and, you know, pick the ones that have what you want and lead to what you want. And they are available for primary and secondary teaching as well. You can do a postgraduate teacher training course across England and Wales. So they're typically offered by schools and university. So the course you choose for those will depend on your subject and your degree class and where it's based as well. You might be doing an undergraduate teaching degree right now. So they typically have a specialism, so whether it's maths or science, something like that. That can be popular for primary teaching. There's lots of different themes you can do. So I think on the next slide, we've got some information on those. So there we go. We've got Now Teach, Premier Pathways and Teach First. Teach First are coming to the fair next week. So they offer a 2-year leadership development program, which includes a fully funded postgraduate diploma in leadership and education. It's really important to consider things like that. So funding, what the different things offer, student finance. But you've got plenty of time to do your research. And on the next slide, we've included lots of links that explain all of that. Don't feel like you have to Google it and have a million tabs open to figure it out. We've got all the information there to make it easier. There's an education graduate job search as well that we have on there, information alternative careers. And we also have a link to the Get Into Teaching website. So they have it's a really intuitive website, lots of information, personal anecdotes as well. So anything you want to know about teaching is on there as well. So please do check that out. So what to expect when being a teacher? I'm sure we all have that idea in our mind, whether it's from lecturers now or teaching from your teachers from your school. But of course, these are the general things that you would be doing. So delivering lessons effectively, keeping time, plan engaging and relevant lessons to suit your class and what year they are. Lots of marking and planning as well. And of course, there's these pastoral and welfare sides you have to consider. So it can be quite an emotional job at times. Implement the designated curriculum. So you do have to keep up to date with knowledge on what is happening as well. So with that, there's lots of things that you'll be doing. So it'd be great now if in the chat, maybe you might put some skills that you think you need for this. So these are the things you'd be expected to do, but of course you need skills to do them. So what kind of things do you think you have to do to be able to be a teacher? What kind of skills? I'll give you a second to put in the chat if you want to. If not, I'm sure Ushma will give me a couple of ideas as well.
I think the students will probably underestimate how many skills associated with this profession that they've actually already developed. So I think we're going to give a prize to the person who puts the first answer in the chat box, to be honest with you, Hayley.
Absolutely.
So they're sat back and they're thinking, right, okay, what skills is it that I'm developing on my degree? How might that be transferred over to teaching or education? And I think, let's see if they come up with more than the last group did, Hayley. So
yes, they had quite a few.
4 or 5 skills that they came up with that matched the ones that we had.
Absolutely. But I love that comment as well. A lot of the skills you might be thinking quite high level ones, they will be ones that you already have from your degree or from anything else. And if not, there's time to develop them. So don't be put off any of them. That's a great one. Thank you, Rebecca. Empathy. Absolutely. We didn't have that one in the last workshop. So thank you for that. That's absolutely, because it can be quite an emotional job. You definitely need empathy. Even just to keep up with it, there can be more demanding times. So yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. I was also messaged some, so time management, organisation, absolutely. Patience from Chloe, yeah, 100%. Patience, I think, is definitely one that you need. Endurance, yeah, fantastic. Oh, we've got a lot more sort of emotional ones in this session. That's great. Yeah, 100% endurance. Yeah, definitely. I think teaching, yeah, it can definitely be at high stress, depending on the school you're in or the type of difficulties your class has. So it's really great that you're aware of that. Before embarking into that career, if that's what you choose to do. It's definitely a job where you need that resilience, 100%. So let's go on to the slide now and see some of those other skills. But thank you for those, they're great.
I'm very impressed. Thank you very much, everyone.
Definitely. So these are the skills, so the essential skills, whether it's relationship building, so these would all include, you know, empathy, patience, endurance, absolutely, leadership, enthusiasm, creativity, discipline, stamina as well. I think we forget ones like that. Strong subject knowledge, of course. So again, we don't put these on to kind of scare you. There might be a couple where you think, I'm just not sure I have that. You will have so many from your degree by itself. So if you haven't had time to get involved in other things at the university, you definitely have some of these. And there are lots of opportunities that you still have time to get involved in. So if you're in your 3rd year, you have time. So just to remind you of that, absolutely. I'll just go on to the next slide. So what things do you need to know and tips for getting in? So understanding things like the initial teacher training and qualified teaching status, so what they mean and which courses have that included as well when you finish them. So again, they don't all have that. So it's important to know what you need for what you want to teach. Postgraduate teacher training does require a minimum of a 2-2 degree. And of course, you need to have a disclosure and barring service check. What is important as well, that most would want you to have some sort of experience or to know at least what it's like in the classroom. And I think that's really important. I'm sure Ushma would agree that to help decide if teaching is right for you, it'd be great to have some experience, whether it's working with young people, mentoring and tutoring, or just getting some school-based or classroom experience. It's very different being in there, trying to see it from the perspective of the teacher versus when you were there when you were younger. So it's really important to get that and just to see what the culture's like. And then you can really think, is this something I want to do? And if it is, fantastic. And if not, you can look at the alternative careers, because there are so many. So please, you know, if you have experience and you don't think you like it, there might be another career in education that would be perfect for you.
I think sorry, Hayley, I think it really helps for students to gain an insight into any workplace, but this one particularly, because you want to be involved in the conversations that are happening in the staff room. What sorts of things are they talking about? How is it that they're managing students and student progress? What sort of emotional support are they providing to the young people that they're in charge of? And then you can't pick those sorts of things up by being a student yourself. You have to kind of be in that environment to have a really detailed insight, and that actually helps you decide whether this is a profession for you or not.
100%. That's absolutely true, and it is a big commitment doing a postgrad qualification or something like that. So if you did get some experience and it did help you decide if you actually want to do it, it's only going to help you as well when making those career decisions. So on your application for teaching, you do need to demonstrate understanding and experience of teaching and the curriculum. So again, experience will really help you express that and to write that on an application. We've got a link there for some tips and advice about writing a great application, and that link is specifically for a PGCE, so please do check that out. And of course, we have our application appointments, so if you did want us to have a look at that with you as well, that is something we offer. So do make the most of the fair. So these are the exhibitors coming. As I said, we've got Teach First, Tutor Trust, Teaching the teacher training. Come with some questions for them, whether it's asking about the things they offer, what's the training like, the funding, things like that, or just ask them, be honest, what is it like being a teacher? This is what I imagine, can you tell me a bit more? I always say to students, you know, don't feel under pressure when you're coming to the fair. The employers are there to speak to you. They just want to let you know what it's like, talk to you about some opportunities they have, so you don't have to go with sort of, you know, a floor-length CV and a suit and tie. It's very much informal, and we just want you to get to know the employers and start networking. It's a really great opportunity to do that.
Okay,
I
Hayley?
believe the next slide, yeah, is a video, yeah. So again, do look at the slide, look at these videos as well. That'd be great. I'm going to hand over to Ushma now for the next sectors. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayley, very much. So we're going to look at the charities and non-government organisations sector. So interestingly, this sector has got about 50 million names. 3 of them are on the screen right now. So we've often referred to as the third sector, the voluntary sector, not-for-profit sector. And it's just important that you understand that actually as a sector, it's enormous. So if you have a look at the screen, it's telling you, we're telling you that the income is approximately £56 billion a year. And some of that comes from public donations, membership fees, and charges for services provided. 900,000 people in the UK are employed in the sector. And that kind of gives you an insight in terms of, yes, there are jobs available, but there are also lots of voluntary opportunities available as well. Now, often when people are thinking about going into this sector, they have an idea as to what it is they want to do from a work perspective. And some of the things that are on the screen might surprise you, but all charities and non-government organisations need people in HR, they need people in marketing and PR, finance, project management, and then we have the more specialist things such as research and policy, specific support services, volunteer management and coordination. And there might be specific roles or specialism that are not on here that are related to the intricate work that the charity does. So on the screen now, you will see some examples of graduate employers within the sector. It's important for anybody who's interested in applying that Charity Works are one organisation that have recently launched their graduate scheme. And you should use Career Connect to have a look at the different employers and the different positions that they're offering. Sorry, next slide for me. What's it like to work in the sector? I think this is something that people think about quite a lot. Is the job frontline working? Are you going to be in an environment where you're working in the office? Sometimes there's an issue that the salary might be a little bit lower than what's offered in the private sector, but then to counterbalance that, you might be in a position where you've got greater job satisfaction because your work is helping people. When resources are low, as the slide, the bullet point suggests, it can be quite stressful. And this could be monetary resources, or it could be other resources that are required to do the job. There is strong competition for paid employment, and that's why we would recommend you access support with your applications and understand what the employer requires before you're in a position where you apply for the job. We have some examples of job roles that are specific. Often some of the job roles are transferable between sectors. So if, let's say, for example, you're an advice worker for charity, you could do that for a non-government organisation or a local government organisation. Bid writing and researching for grants and writing proposals, even I can't get my words out, writing proposals for grants is a huge skill that's required by people in this sector. You could actually do some community and education related work. Project management, because lots of charities have lots of different things that they're working on and they might need this, a specific skill set to complete that. And then you have youth worker. Actually, the youth worker role, it goes across charities, creative and cultural sectors, as well as local and national government level as well. So most importantly, how you can get in and the things that you need to know. It's really important that you understand you're going to gain employment through your work experience as well as the transferable skills that you have developed. It's really important to consider things like networking, as Hayley has pointed out already. You should be in a position where you can learn to write about the part-time work that you've done and how that has allowed you to gain a skill set that would also be applicable to the sector. Most organizations in this sector want general skills from general degree subjects and disciplines. And therefore, it's important that you understand, like we said with the teaching, that you are actually developing a highly regarded set of skills that are going to really help you. So be confident in what you are able to do. Now, we have some organizations attending the fair. So we've got Think Ahead, Frontline, and Teach First. But it would also benefit you to talk to the larger organizations. They have charitable arms as part of the organization, which fits in with their corporate social responsibility commitments. So an example would be the EY Foundation that the auditing and consultancy firm EY have. They do loads and loads of community work and work with young people to help them access careers and opportunities. So that's kind of like my summary of the charities and non-government organisation sector. There is a video available for you to watch when you access the PowerPoint slides. And the student is giving some really, really interesting insights in terms of how they accessed the opportunity they did. Okay, so I will now move on to government policy and research. This is quite a popular choice with students who come to our university. It's important that you understand that there's a wide range of career opportunities available in central, national, regional, and local government. All of these institutions, we should call them, also have policy and research related roles, and they can be opportunities for graduate level positions, but a lot of opportunities arise from entry level positions as well. So if you're looking for working for the government, often you're going to be in the this would be referred to as working in the public sector, looking after public services. Because you're in the public sector, often policy changes would go in line with government changes, which would affect what's happening with regards to government departments. And it's important that you understand that policy jobs are also linked to universities, think tanks, and charities as well. So please make sure that you understand that. Often the positions are entry-level positions, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't apply if you've got a degree. So central and local government, central government, and often referred to as a civil service, they have some graduate schemes. So HMRC, who are attending the fair, have a graduate scheme, but a high proportion of the roles are entry-level positions. So what does that mean? It means that you're going to start working within a department sort of at the bottom of the organizational structure, so that you're going to get all the skills and gain all the understanding required to develop the insights and real knowledge of how to do that job, which will then allow you to work your way up. In terms of this civil service, Hayley and I will drop a link into the chat that will allow you to understand that there's so many different government departments to work for. So it might be that you have a particular interest, like in the Department for Education, or you might be interested in the Home Office or Defence or Intelligence. So it's important that you first of all look at like the sector that you want to work in, and then learn about all of the different types of jobs and job roles that they have. Regional and devolved government, so Manchester Combined Authority, we have quite a lot of different roles that are associated with the Combined Authority. And then local government, so we would be Manchester City Council, or it could be that you live in Oldham or Bolton or Blackburn. So they would all have their own departments who would then create policy, make decisions, and support what's happening in the local community. So again, you've got information here about graduate opportunities using your research skills to influence policy. So I won't go into each of these because you're all able to kind of engage with the information here, but you can look at think tanks, charities. We've looked at NGOs already. Universities have a high proportion of research associated with roles, but they are often associated with academic roles as well. And you can also use your research skills in the private sector, particularly when working for market research agencies or other such like institutions. So on the screen now we have examples of graduate employers. You've got the Health and Safety Executive, Ipsos Mori, who a lot of you will be familiar with. They do quite a lot of polling and gaining an understanding of how people are feeling in relation to government or in relation to changes in economy, and they produce brilliant insights. So it's important that you understand what it's like to work in government. I think it's important to understand that often it's felt that the public sector is regarded as like a secure job. And what does that mean? It means that, you know, there might not be as many risks of redundancy or job loss because you're working for a government organization. However, this can also be affected by when the department or the local authority or the government has to make cuts to their spending. There are restrictions in terms of when you can and cannot access pay rises, as they're in line with what's happening across nationally. They have really good working conditions, and often the employees are developed really strongly so that there's continued professional development. And when you get into the local authority or a government department, they want you to stay. So they'll train you and develop you. And often there's opportunities to go from one department to the other. And I think that helps people vary up the different types of roles that they have. So on the screen now, we have some examples of different types of job roles. You've got intelligence analyst, you've got charity officer, but you might be thinking, hang on a minute, Ushma, you've just gone through charities, but there might be a charity officer role here as well. Office assistant, which is kind of the sort of role that grows across all organizations, and then project management, as mentioned in the charities and non-government organization sector as well. So a project manager might be working on the introduction of a new IT system, for example, or improving efficiencies and ways of working. So again, that skill set is something that you're developing while you're on your degree already. Okay, so some roles in government organisations require specific degree disciplines, but on the whole, the majority of roles will help you develop that specialist knowledge while you're in role. And the real important thing is for you to be able to articulate the skills that you've developed while studying on your degree programs. We recommend that people use LinkedIn. You might decide to follow different departments on LinkedIn so that you're then being alerted to different opportunities that are arising through them. Searching for civil service and local government jobs is quite straightforward. They often have websites where you can set up job alerts, and that then gives you an information about the different types of opportunities that are occurring. So attending the fair, we have Her Majesty's, or His Majesty's, I've done it again, haven't I, Hayley? Sorry. So His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. You have Unlocked, who are the organisation who recruit for graduate positions in prisons, and not necessarily the government, but we have the Bank of England attending, and you can learn to look at different policy-related roles that they have. We also have on Monday the 17th, a Getting Into Local Government session, and this will be taking place, I think it's in person, but you can look on Career Connect to book onto that event if you are interested in this sector. So I won't go into the video, but by all means, please make sure that you have a listen to what the student is saying about how they access their role, you know, what they're enjoying about their role and their top tips.
Ushma, sorry to interrupt. We had a question in the chat based on that sector. So a student has asked, is it possible for non-UK students to apply for government jobs?
This is a really, really interesting question, and often there are stipulations in terms of who can or cannot apply for these positions. Now, I can't tell you yes or no straight off the bat. I think it would depend on the department that's hiring. So I'm sorry that I can't actually answer the question specifically. There do tend to be a leaning towards people who've got residency, but again, that could be altered depending on whether or not there is a shortage in the skill for that particular department. I know that hasn't answered the question specifically, but there isn't a right or wrong answer here. So there will be a high proportion of them will require you to be a British citizen, but there could be the odd 1 or 2 opportunities that might not. Okay, so I'll move on to healthcare.
Thanks, Ushma.
No problem. So the healthcare sector, often humanities students will be like, why are you covering this? Because there's actually lots and lots of jobs that don't necessarily require you to have a science or medical degree. Lots of people were gripped by the pandemic, as we know. Your age group will have been affected by it quite a lot. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that you understand that the NHS is the top 5 employer in the UK. It's a huge, huge, huge machine that requires lots and lots of people working for them. 350 different types of job or job role that are available. And these are looking at specific things related to procurement or administration or management, and also things like, you know, waiting list support roles, management roles within those, so that they can make the service run as effectively and efficiently as possible. There's also opportunities in private hospitals, which we'll look at in a minute. So maybe you have a sector in mind that you want to go into, and you're open to the type of employer that you're looking for. So if you look at the different roles that are associated, we've got some commonality here, haven't we? So human resources kind of goes across all of the different sectors that we've discussed, IT and technology. I think there's a local trust to me with Insure Hospital. They've just literally had a brand new system introduced, and they need technical experts to help train the staff who are going to be using the system on a day-to-day basis. Sales and procurement, you've again got project management. You might also be interested in not necessarily working in the NHS, but looking at healthcare in general. So there's care home opportunities, medical labs, people's homes, and some charities also support this sort of work as well. So on the screen are examples of graduate employers. You've got the NHS, you've got private organisations such as Bupa and Spire Healthcare and Nuffield, and we've got some examples of charities such as the British Red Cross and Save the Children. So it's important to understand what it's like to work in the sector. So if we're being NHS specific, the pay rates are standardised across the country, and they're negotiated and they go up by percentages agreed by the government. It's good because you can transfer your role to different authorities across the country. And it is important to kind of note that it can be stressful work. There are a lot of pressures on the NHS, but it could be that you will love that, you'll thrive in that environment because you enjoy working in a fast-paced environment where you can solve high levels of problems. On the right, you've got some information about a fast-track NHS graduate management scheme, and you can also talk to the people who come to the fair. So we have NHS Supply Chain, which is actually enormous if you think about the number of hospitals and health centres that are across the UK. Bupa are also attending, and we have Think Ahead Again and Arcus, who are infrastructure specialists. Again, we have a video that you might be in a position where you want to look at. So then by all means, look at how the student is enjoying and really thriving in the environment that they're working in. So Hayley, we are now at the point in our talk where we're going to give the students an opportunity to have a quiz.
Yes, so we do. We have a quiz.
So hey, if you don't mind just padding for me, I will load the quiz up. Students, hopefully, I think one of them's just left. They definitely don't want to play a quiz. So students, I hope you don't mind. We thought we'd add a little bit of fun, test your knowledge to see where you're at. So if you don't mind getting your phones out, you can play on your computer as well. I'm going to try and remove the Halloween theme, unless we want a Halloween theme. Do we want a Halloween theme?
We can have, sure it'll be. Yeah, you can have one.
Okay. Right, it's got the horrible music on it though. Let me get rid of that. So I'll share screen. All you need to do to participate is go to Kahoot It, which will be on your screen shortly. So it's Kahoot It, and then type in the number 2403485, or do what Hayley normally does and scan the QR code. Hayley, are you playing this time?
Yes, I am. I am going to play again with a different name this time, a different code name. So.
I think you should have a code name. Thank you, Ben, for joining. If your name is Ben.
Let's see if some of the students join. Hopefully you do. But if not, we can still go through it to show them the answers. And because I think there's some really good questions on there that can really highlight if there's some gaps in knowledge or myths in the different sectors we've gone through, for sure.
Definitely. So I'll just give you a minute or two to join, because it takes a little bit of time for everybody to come through. So I've got 3 so far. How many have we got here? I think there's 6 participants, including me and you. So I'll give you one more. Yeah.
I think people, oh, there we go. We've got Stevens, oh, there we go, great.
Yeah, well, that's everybody who's going to join, I think. Right. Okay, so I will get started now. What I'll do to make it a bit easier is I will read the questions out. You've got 20 seconds to read the question and answer as well. So fastest fingers first. Good luck, everybody. Here we go.
Nice build up.
So which sector would the job title administrative assistant belong to? Is it charity and NGO, creative and cultural, education, or all of them? So I've got 3 answers so far. Just waiting. Why? Well done, everyone. You've got it. Yes, it applies to all of them. Okay, Kay, really fast. Fast finger there. Let's go. So number 2, a theatre manager would typically work in the creative and cultural sector. True or false? Yeah, a theatre manager would normally work in the creative and cultural sector. And now Ben is in the lead. Next one. Which sector would a human resources assistant typically work in? All of them, education, healthcare, or government? Yeah, so it's all of them. Oh, I like this game. Everyone's mixing it up in terms of who's in the lead. So the next question is, which sector could a youth worker work in? So is it creative and cultural, local government, charity and NGO, or all of them?
It can be quite tricky when it's quite a general and broad job title.
So I think that we need to be in a position where we can at least allocate points to the people who guess charity and NGO and local government, because actually you're right. Yeah. They mainly fit in those 2 sectors, but we actually have youth workers who work for community theatre and music, particularly to engage young people. The next one. Paul, still in the lead. Rightio. Which sector would a government social research officer typically work in? So is it creative and cultural, healthcare, charity and NGO, and or government? Yay, everyone got that one right. Well done. Okay, you're on fire. Who has told you? And Paul, you're in the lead. An intelligence analyst would work in the creative and cultural sector. True or false?
Intelligence analyst, again, quite a general almost. It's a specific job title, but I feel like it could apply, you know, to others.
Yeah. So I think that the students have got this one spot on. Data analyst, all sectors. Intelligence analyst would be restricted. I don't think you'd get very many of them in the theatre, would you? Okay, we're maintaining lead there, Paul. Next one. You can only work in the healthcare sector with a science-related degree. True or false? Yay, everyone's got that one right. So they were all
very
listening.
Glad that all the answers were false, because it can be a bit of a myth. And I think for hum students, humanities, you have this idea that, you know, maybe you have to do physics or maths, but absolutely not. There's so many different jobs that are not actually scientific, but one surrounding like project management, data, HR, so many different things.
Spot on, Hayley. Brilliant. Thank you. Paul is definitely in the lead now. Is anybody going to catch you? Right. Next one. Eighth question. A teacher would only work in the education sector. True or false? Oh, good. So correct. A teacher can work in lots of different environments. So we talked about this before in the other chat that we had an hour ago. So teachers work in hospitals, they work in prisons, they work on sets for TV programs and films as well. The next one. So we've got some movement on the board, but the top two remain the same. Question 9, which sector would a project manager work in? Healthcare, education, charity and NGO, or all of them? Yeah, I think these students have sussed out my quizzing skills now. Brilliant.
Last question.
Last question. Thank you. The autumn careers fairs will be held on the 18th and 19th of October. True or false? True.
Absolutely. And please do mark in your calendars and come down. There'll be different employers on each day as well. So a fantastic opportunity to network.
Well done, Steve.
Yes. Well done.
Well done, Kay. And our winner is, put loads up, Paul. Congratulations. You win the prize of knowing all the answers. So students, we're only going to keep you for another couple of minutes to help us learn how the presentation has gone. We need to collect some feedback from you, if that's okay. Another QR code, if you don't mind. Anything that you particularly enjoyed or you think we need to improve on. Yeah, exactly. And we, you know, we're happy to make sure that we mix things up for you, and anything you think we did a good job of, also put on there. So it'll just take you a couple of minutes, please.
And thank you so much for coming as well.
Yeah,
I've stopped my recording, Ushma, by the way, as well.
Okay, and
I recorded too. I just thought I'd stop it there now.
I'll stop